The coalition delegation refuses the discussion of the provision on combating terrorism during the session of talks held in Geneva today between the delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic and the coalition delegation. Lavrov affirms that the Geneva talks must contribute to an end to terrorism. On the 35th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution, Rohani says whoever thinks the West is capable of intervening militarily in Iran is in complete illusion. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. The Deputy Foreign and Expatriate Minister, Dr. Mikdad, has said stopping the bloodshed should be a priority for all the Syrians so that every Syrian would be able to live in peace, and then we would be ready to discuss anything. We have no concerns about any of the Geneva Statement's provisions, Mr. Mikdad said, adding that the Syrian delegation cannot accept that the first and most important provision of the Geneva Statement related to combating terrorism be of a past, and that those who refuse discussing this provision seek to create and support terrorism in order to kill the Syrian people. Al-Mikdad stressed that the coalition delegation has been far away from the spirit of the Geneva I statement and does not want to go into any political activities. It has completely rejected the insertion of the terrorism provision on the debate's agenda. Dr. Mikdad emphasized the Syrian delegation's resolve to take part in the Geneva meetings to convey the Syrian people's voice and sufferings, and in order to reach a solution to the crisis in Syria. Sana's correspondent to Geneva has said the coalition delegation rejects inserting combating terrorism on the draft agenda and that no agreement has been reached on the draft agenda during the session. The Syrian Arab Republic's delegation pointed out that no talk is possible about Syrian political issues and that, in harmony with the Geneva Statement, no other provision may be discussed before discussing the subject of combating the terrorism from which the Syrian people have been suffering. The Syrian Arab Republic's delegation stressed that the subject of terrorism started to be discussed today and will continue to be discussed until a joint national project to combat terrorism is reached. Earlier, a session of talks was held in Geneva this morning between the delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic and the coalition delegation with the participation of the UN envoy to Syria, al-Akhdar al-Ibrahimi. At the request of the Syrian Republic's delegation, the session started with a minute of silence observed in honor of the martyrs of Man village in Hama suburbs, as well as Syria's martyrs. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has affirmed that Syria has always been ready to implement the Geneva Statement despite its achievements realized on the ground in the fight against the terrorists, contrary to the US that has not demonstrated any enthusiasm in this respect. In a press conference he held with his Algerian counterpart Ramadan al-Amamira in Moscow, Lavrov said, "The reports about the Syrian government going back on its acceptance for the Geneva Statement are false, as it has always announced its intention to discuss the statement in all its provisions." Lavrov added that according to the Geneva Statement, the Syrian society with all its factions should be represented within the framework of the inter-Syrian dialogue. The Syrian government is constantly seeking to implement international legitimacy and combat the extremist terrorists who are fighting on its land, Lavrov pointed out. He added that the humanitarian draft resolution submitted at the UN Security Council is absolutely unacceptable, and using the humanitarian issue today is but a repetition of the chemical weapons scenario to create a pretext for foreign intervention in Syria and to put Russia and China in a provocative position to change their stance. The Russian foreign minister said the terrorists are the main obstacle in the way of the arrival of the humanitarian assistance into any region in Syria. He stressed that all the affected areas must be dealt with without distinction. 2 mortar shells fired by terrorists have hit houses in Bab Touma and Masakin Barza areas in Damascus. A police source said that a mortar shell hit a house close to Al-Bakri bath house in Bab Touma area, which caused material damages without injuring citizens. The source added that another mortar shell fell outside a house in Masakin Barza area, causing material damages only. After evacuating a huge number of civilians, most of them women, children and the elderly, who had been besieged in old homes, in accordance with an agreement with the UN resident representative in Syria, the governor of Homs stressed that the status of 111 citizens have been settled. These citizens who have been evacuated range between 16 and 54 years old. The increasing number of civilians who have been evacuated has been considered as a positive sign. Therefore, the negotiations ultimatum agreed upon by the government and the UN has been extended for 3 days. Homs Governor Talal al-Barazi said most of the civilians evacuated were women and old people. He added that 180 children were given the necessary vaccinations. In the town of al-Zara in Homs countryside, Syrian Arab army killed 36 terrorists, most of them Lebanese, Saudis and Chechens, maintaining control on Tallet Alloush, eliminating the last terrorist gatherings there. In Aleppo, the Syrian Arab army has achieved progress in some areas in the ancient part of the city. The news camera has been at the site of the explosion, which was caused by terrorists at the Court of Justice building. Syrian Arab army units have also cleared Astafahiyya village and controlled some of the buildings surrounding it. The authorities in the governorate of Dar'a have settled the status of 200 people from As-Sanomain province in Dar'a, northern suburbs. Several persons said they had been deceived by the media and religious misleading reports, hoping that all those who have been misled would return to the correct stand and contribute to the construction of the homeland. They said that they would open a new page with themselves and their homeland and would return to their original jobs, which had formed their source of livelihood before they were involved in carrying arms. In Lebanon, gunmen driving a Mercedes attacked 3 Syrian workers in the northern town of Shakka, robbing them of all of their money. The attack is part of a series of assaults carried out recently by armed men, most likely supported by al-Mustaqbal bloc, against Syrian workers in Lebanon. Finally, Iranian President Hassan Rohani has asserted that those who back terrorism in Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan have created many problems, adding that all should think of bringing security to the region. In a speech marking the 35th anniversary of the victory of the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1969, Rohani said that the date 11th of February 1979 represented a victory for the Iranian people and national unity against tyranny and foreign occupation, and in realizing the people's will that the country be run by Iranians only to achieve stability, national sovereignty and overcome attempts made by the foreigners to humiliate the Iranian people who have suffered from the interference of the foreign forces. Within the same context, millions of Iranians have marked the 35th anniversary of the victory of the Islamic Revolution in Iran by staging mass rallies in various cities and provinces, asserting adherence to its principles and to the Iranian leadership in combating forces of hegemony and supporting the axis of resistance in the region. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Till tomorrow, all the best.